Now that's some lovely view, isn't it, to open up one of my videos? And you're probably wondering to yourself, where is he? Is he stood somewhere in his lederhosen in the Austrian Tyrol? Or maybe in the same lederhosen in the Swiss Alps? I'm afraid not. I'm at Ollerton, or near Booton really. This is Ollerton Pit Woods. I'm still not wearing a lederhosen either, but to be quite honest, it's such a glorious day. You could wear shorts and a t-shirt. It is absolutely beautiful. You don't get many better days in late October than this. So it's a case of looking on the foliage and on the tree trunks and fence posts just to see if we can see any late invertebrates that are just enjoying those last few days of warm sunshine. Seems we've got another couple of days of similar temperatures and mild conditions. That'll do me very nicely, thank you very much. We're well into the autumn period now, so whenever you get fine days like this, it's often worth looking on any sort of exposed sunny surface, especially the surface of evergreen leaves or large leaves surfaces such as on this dogwood here. Good places to look for invertebrates that are soaking up the last few days of the year's sunshine and warmth before going into hibernation. And this 7-spot ladybird is one of few that I've seen. It's been a poor year for ladybirds, but it's been a poor year for pretty much everything anyway because of the hot weather. You rather tend to think that the better the weather, the hotter and warmer it is, the better it is for insects, but not always so, especially for UK invertebrates. Mediterranean invertebrates, excellent. But ladybirds have had a poor year. That includes the harlequin ladybird as well. There's a few starting to appear now, but nothing in the numbers you would typically expect. And certainly with this 7-spot ladybird, there's not a great number of these around. Although when you get to this time of year, they can become quite elusive. They'll often overwinter in leaf litter and ivy as well, and especially where the two combine. So if you want to see 7-spot ladybirds in late autumn, quite often it pays to look on the ground or on leaf litter and where ivy is crawling along the ground or up trees. This one is enjoying its late October sunbathing. And no doubt we'll be hoping for a much more successful year in 2023. And here's another invertebrate that you'll commonly find basking in the late autumn sunshine, such as this green shieldbug here on this dogwood. It's only a few inches away from the 7-spot ladybird that you've just seen. This one is still in its summer finery because as the autumn progresses, green shieldbugs such as this become almost a unicolorous olive brown colour. They look nothing like this coloration at all, and quite often people can request an identification of what is just a green shieldbug in its autumn colour. Leaves on trees aren't the only things that change colour, and many bugs also become dull or totally change their appearance during the autumn months before overwintering. But you'll see a number of these if you go out in your garden. You may well see a green shieldbug or a hawthorn shieldbug doing exactly this and making the most of the sunshine. See, I told you it was a lovely day. Unfortunately, there's been a partial solar eclipse today, but conditions weren't right. There was never just the right amount of cloud to enable it to be seen, which is a shame. But we can still enjoy the sun as we walk around. It's a glorious day. For its most part, Ollerton Pit Woods is like this. It's very similar and quite generic to most other developed and landscaped pit tops that we have in Nottinghamshire. But one good thing about this place is the wideness of the rides over most of its length. When it was first landscaped and grassed over, it was planted with tens of thousands of whips. Hence, we get all that lot. But looks as though there's been some marking out done, and those trees are going to come down, or at least some of them are going to come down. They're no good as they are. They're far too thick for anything to grow underneath. Not even any good as a timber crop, I don't think. But this is a good place, like all pit tops, great for invertebrates. And I thought there'd be a few late grasshoppers, because normally you can get grasshoppers well into October and often into November sometimes if the weather's favourable. But the hot weather and then the rain that we've had after seems to have curtailed the season for Orthoptera a lot earlier than normal. Normally this time of year I still expect to hear and see a few field grasshoppers, but as with everything else, there's pretty much nothing. It's a shame that there's not more invertebrates around to enjoy this sunshine. I can never understand why they overplant so much, especially on these colliery sites. I know why it's done, but it's obviously done so that you've got a large mass of roots and that potentially holds the ground in place. If that's the case, why do they build on pit tops or the lower areas of former pit tops? Big accident waiting to happen, if you ask me. But from an invertebrate point of view, there is little attraction to these densely planted areas of pines. Fair enough, there will be some suitable overwintering places that they can tuck themselves into, and birds will certainly get a good degree of shelter from being in these densely planted trees, but it'll be far better when it's opened up. They could have saved themselves thousands and thousands of pounds just by not planting it so heavily. Better still, just let it all work naturally. Nature will take care of it all if it's just given the time and the space to do so. And it makes a better job of it. Now here's something, admittedly not shown very well here, that I never expected to find on a pit top site. It's on the right hand side of this post is the larval case of one of the Dolichas, and I suspect, based on experience, that this is Dolicha lichenella. It's a large case for a Dolicha. It has the right sort of shape and dimensions for lichenella, and quite often lichenella doesn't, although its name might suggest it does, have a covering of lichens on it. Quite often it's just a fresh looking case like this. That's something that I never expected to find. Dolicha lichenella, like several Dolicha species and several of the Psychidae moths, are flightless or have flightless females, so they rely on moving around purely by the larva crawling around in its larval case. That's a very surprising record. That's quite astonishing for a pit top site that's only been in existence for 30 odd years. It's a nice find, that. Pleased with that. This is pretty much my favourite little bit of habitat here on Ollerton Pit Woods. It's a lovely area of water. It's fairly shallow, and reed fringed by Phragmites that's developed naturally. At the far end there's some water that runs into it and it alters the level of the water, but it's some brilliant habitat. It's a lovely spot to stand here, actually. A couple of swans that have done well. Water rail calling during the breeding season. I think it was last summer. Not the summer that was just gone, but the summer of 2021 that I had a male calling at the far end. But it's a lovely spot to visit, Ollerton Pit Woods. There is a nice little car park and there's a relatively flat walk. Flat walk that comes down the left hand side. We can see where the green fence line is, comes round at the back of me and then continues on the other side back to your point of origin. There's very little incline, but it can be a bit hillier if you want it to be. But it's a nice place and a popular place as well, especially with dog walkers and people just coming out for a stroll with the kids. Well worth a visit, any time of the year as well. Fresh air, any day of the year, is as good as going to the doctors.